They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it. It's another day for This Incredible Mom Life. Today's guest brings a refreshing perspective to relationships, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. Michelle Purta is a marriage coach, mom of 3, host of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. She helps couples move from reactive patterns into intentional partnership so they can feel more connected, supported, and get back to feeling like an us again, all while raising kids. Thank you, Michelle, for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Amy.
Yes. And I love this conversation because it's so common to have marital problems after having kids, especially, right? So I'm glad we're going to talk about it. But first, tell us who you are mom to.
Yeah, so I am a stepmom to my 16-year-old son. I am bio mom to my almost 10-year-old son and also my 6-year-old daughter.
Nice. So you got your hands full,
hmm
right? You have one in high school, and is it 2 still in elementary school?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we're getting to that end of the year craziness, so enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely like full-fledged Maycember over here.
Oh,
I
yes.
am like dreading it. Like I'm equally looking forward to school ending, but also dreading it. Like, oh, now I have to have you home.
Yes, that's the other challenge. Well, share a story about your kids.
Oh, so I think one of the more notable experiences as a mom that really changed how I navigated motherhood is actually finding out that one of my sons has sensory processing disorder. For those who are not aware of that, everyone that is autistic has sensory processing disorder, but not everyone with sensory processing disorder has autism. And so we were experiencing a lot of just meltdowns all the time. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And it would change, like the triggers would change all the time. And the house just felt really stressful for everyone. And I knew that all the advice that, the parenting experts were sharing, my friends were sharing, my parents, none of it was working. And it really took me kind of stepping outside of the box and thinking about, okay, well, what does my child need? I can try and force all these cookie cutter ways of parenting to work, but my child, as well as all other children, they're all unique. They have their own individual needs. And so it really took me being willing to admit that, oh, okay, all of these ways are not working. So I need to be resourceful and figure out a different way to support my son. And so thankfully, there's a thing called pediatric occupational therapy. And that's when I found out what was going on with him. I had no name for it. I just knew, why is this so hard? It seems like this is a lot harder than everyone else is experiencing. And it really helped me understand better what was going on underneath and not to see the behaviors and the outbursts as like, oh, he's just making our lives difficult. He's choosing to do this on purpose, but rather he was becoming dysregulated more easily than, a neurotypical child. And so that really helped me become more aware of, wow, everyone goes through this. We just have different levels of how we tolerate stress and how easily we get triggered, which, now I know is called the window of tolerance. And that has truly changed how I navigated all relationships with myself, with my husband, with my kids, and with all my friends. And it was like truly life-changing. It helped me meet people where they're at and take things less personally.
Nice. I've never actually heard of that. So that's
Yeah.
something new for me. And I love that you said it's not like a cookie cutter approach, right, to raising your
Mm-mm.
kids. Like every kid is different. You have to find what works for you. And it sounds like you found that sweet spot where you can navigate life a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our moments, right? But
Of
at
course.
least now, because I'm not fighting like why doesn't this work on you? Why are you so like not that I ever verbalize this, but those are the thoughts in my head. Like, why is this not working? And so now it's like I've built this sense of resilience to be able to stay with him and support him, which has helped with my daughter because girls got some big feelings. And I'm so thankful that it all like played out that way.
Nice. And you said this also helps with your own personal relationship with yourself, right?
That's
And probably
right.
with your husband too. So now we're going to shift over and talk about a little bit who you are and what you do. So tell us more.
Yeah, so I'm a marriage coach, and what I do is I help couples who constantly find themselves having repetitive arguments, or they go in thinking like, okay, we're just going to talk about this thing and everything will be all good. We're going to, come up with some kind of solution and move on. But instead of that happening, they'll have the conversation and then things will quickly escalate and spiral out of control. And next thing you know, you're talking about something that you never intended to talk about because it just came up. Or maybe you're yelling at each other, or maybe you're being petty with each other. And it's more of a reactive conversation rather than an intentional one where you're truly working together to resolve an issue. And so I love to help couples kind of bridge the gap for the skills that we all should really grow up learning how to do, right? Problem solve with people who disagree with us, but we haven't. And so I love to teach people how to have healthy conflict conversations and leave the conversation feeling not only like you solve the issue, but closer together as partners instead of what is more commonly happening in couples who have not learned healthy communication skills and also just emotional regulation skills is they go into it, they end up arguing, and they're now triggering each other back and forth, and they're repeating a pattern that they're not aware is happening. And so that's really what the issue is that they are stepping into a reactive pattern. And no matter what you're arguing about, you are still doing that pattern, which is why it's difficult to find your way out of it.
Oh, yes, I'm guilty as charged because my husband and I have done this for years. We're getting better at it, at the communication and um, just describing like what we meant, and like then the other person will be like, "Oh, that's not what I meant. That's I inferred something different." And so we are working on it, but it's definitely a challenge. And I know we have that repetitive pattern come up where we're just in that same cycle, and then we now we're starting to catch ourselves, so it is getting
Good. I
better.
mean, it's a process, right?
It is a process.
You're basically looking to do something that feels new and unnatural instead of what feels instinctual.
Yeah.
And it's in your ability to pause and pivot that will create a new pattern. But a lot of times things seem like they're happening so fast because we're mostly unaware of ourselves emotionally, so we don't know when we're about to go over the edge. And also, we don't stop to think about what are my thoughts versus what's actually happening. We are making so many assumptions and not clarifying. And you end up having two different conversations when you think you're having one conversation.
Yep. Yeah, so true. But where do these repetitive patterns come from?
Yeah.
Like, how do they come about?
Most of the time, it's based on how you witness your parents arguing.
Mhm.
So whether you saw your parents not argue and then you just associate that with healthy marriage, or you saw your parents go at it with each other and you're like, oh, well, this is just how you talk about things. And then, of course, there's sometimes where you view something, you're like, well, that didn't work. So I'm going to do the complete opposite and swing too far to the other side of things. So it really depends on how you made sense of what you saw growing up at a young, fresh age who doesn't understand anything about a relationship. And you kind of just find that to be familiar, right? It's like when you grow up in a chaotic house and then all of a sudden you are presented with a calm partner, you're kind of like, oh, this is boring. But really, you are just unfamiliar with feeling emotionally safe with someone.
Right. Yeah. So I know this is a recurring theme too, that a lot of this stuff came from childhood, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
are not fully aware of the whole situation, you're just processing what's in front of you, right? And you
That's
take that
right.
to be truth.
That's right.
And that's such an important thing that we have to learn to challenge those beliefs. And that's where you can find change, right? So one of the changes is communication. So talk about the importance of communication in a marriage.
Communication is important, but what I will say is even more important is emotional regulation.
Mm,
So people associate communication with just talking, right? Oh, just make sure you talk things through. Don't go to bed angry. I hate that piece of advice, by the way. Like, absolutely hate it. I don't recommend that at all. Now, I'm not saying, anytime you guys have something, you should just go to bed. What I'm saying is, if you notice yourself not being able to get through the conversation in a productive way, and like define productive as in you're both able to feel engaged in the conversation without feeling like the other side of you is coming out, right? Like one of my past clients, she called it her dragon. So it's like if the dragon is tamed and still in the cave and you're still able to engage in the conversation, even if you still feel angry, but you still feel relatively in control of yourself, right? Like how you're behaving now is how you would behave in other situations when your emotions aren't heightened. Because when emotion is high, your logic is actually very low. And so it's kind of like an opposite thing, right? With the scales, like if emotions, you got a bunch of rocks there, like your logic is like not even able to be visible or
yeah.
or something that you can access. And so when you are talking, you got to make sure you're both able to feel comfortable in the conversation, even if emotions are kind of floating around, and also be able to make sure that you can attune to each other's emotions as well. So, being aware of your own, being aware of your partner, and if any moment it feels like it's starting to escalate, make sure you bring that into awareness and it'd be okay to hit a timeout and say, okay, I think we're a little bit tired. It's been a long day for everyone. And let's just hit pause on this, give ourselves some space to like really process what we talked about. And then let's have this conversation again tomorrow or in 2 days, right? I think so many couples feel pressure to resolve things all in one conversation,
Yes.
but that builds so much pressure to like get it right or to make sure that your partner is understanding you correctly. I think that is the biggest pitfall is like, oh no, they don't understand. I have to push my point. But we can get overloaded so easily. We can get triggered very easily. And the more we can understand ourselves and have that space removed from our partner, not staring at us and, like, again, adding that pressure, the better off we'll be. Like, we really need to start focusing on what would help us resolve this in the most mature way, which often looks like having it in multiple phases if that's what's needed. Don't pressure yourself if you can't do it in this one single sitting because you got to have the end goal in mind, right? The end goal is connection and partnership and working together through collaboration. And if you're pushed to the point of like high stress, high emotion, that's not available to you. So give yourself that grace and patience and think, okay, well, we're not going to have a good conversation if we keep trying to finish it right now. We're going to end up hating each other. We're going to have that awkward moment of tension where we're like testing the waters, like, hey, cracking a joke here, or trying to offer them a goodwill, of like a good gesture to see if they'll receive it. What if you could save yourself from that by keeping the relationship a priority rather than the solution, or rather than feeling like they understand that you're right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm sure having kids thrown into that mix makes it more challenging, right? Which is why I think when you said breaking it up into smaller conversations, that really made sense, because sometimes, like, when my husband and I get into one of these conversations and I'm thinking, okay, it'll be 30 minutes and then I have to go pick up my kid or, do whatever. And he's thinking, okay, this is going to be like a 2 hour drawn out thing. So that, by 25 minutes in, I'm like, okay, I'm getting done. I need to move on. And he's not done. So we kind of now set aside time where we know, okay, we have to go do this thing at whatever in 45 minutes or whatever it is. So we know, and then we'll pick it up, like you said, the next day. So that's really important.
I mean, that's great because life is still going to happen,
Yes.
right? And then also there's this thing where, a lot of couples, there are two different ways of approaching conflict, right? One partner will often be the pursuer, where they feel more secure through talking it out with you right away. So those tend to be the verbal processors. I am guilty of that, right? I need to like fix this. We need to figure it out right now. So there's that pressure. And then there's the other half where, like my husband, he feels more secure in having space to process whatever's happening on his own. So he very much lives in his head. And then those two people marry each other.
Yep.
And
Same
so you
here.
kind of have
We're
to
the
learn.
opposite, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the quiet one. My husband's the one who wants to talk everything out. But yeah, we're married and together.
That's right. That's right. And so we have to notice, again, that's a pattern, right? It's like, oh, when I feel upset, I feel the need to talk about it immediately. And when he feels upset, he tends to withdraw and like thinks about it so that he can come forth into the conversation more grounded and knowing like, okay, this is how I felt, this is what I need. And so we've kind of had to figure our own unique way of how to both feel like we are secure and supported through whatever is happening without abandoning ourselves. And so it is really nuanced to each couple of how this new pattern is created.
Yep. So for that couple who's stuck in those reactive, repetitive arguments, what's like the first thing you tell them?
Pause. Literally. And I know from being the person who is more of the pursuant, like I get how hard that is. Because you're like, what do you mean, pause? We need to figure this out right now. Things are not okay. They're going to leave us. Or, what is this? How does this play out with our kids? Like they can't see us not talking to each other, or they can't feel the tension in the family. Like, okay, well, if you don't pause, what happens, right? You're likely to say something you regret. You will likely, instead of having the bandwidth to listen to your partner while they're talking, you're thinking of a comeback, right? And so
Yes.
when you pause, you get to give yourself that space and really think out, well, why do I feel so strongly about this in particular? What about this is triggering me? And why is it triggering me? And how do I feel about this? What is it that I want? What would have made this situation better for me? Like, what would need to happen going forward that would prevent me from even experiencing this triggered moment?
Yeah.
And really giving yourself that time to reflect on your own so that when you can bring it to the conversation, you have the bandwidth to actually hear your partner out, take that as additional information to formulate your new perspective of what happened, because our side is just one side, right?
Yep.
And it's a very biased side, I will say, because of how our brains are functioning. And this is what allows you to have more mature conversations rather than like, I'm angry, let's talk. And it's all through the lens of, again, heightened emotions, low logic, and there's a lot of blaming, or for me, like blaming, um, passive aggressiveness, lack of accountability, and just very much like this is all you and not me. Like you pissed me off. I was fine before this happened, so obviously it's your fault. And this way you can approach it with more partnership instead, thinking, okay, well, I know what happened from my lens. I want to know now what happened from your lens. And then don't make it about me versus you. Make it like, well, I didn't like how I experienced this. What was your experience like? What was your intention with this? And then you could quickly figure out most times like, oh, you didn't do that on purpose.
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay. So let's
important.
talk about this going forward, like how we can, prevent this from happening. And that's how you grow. That's how you
Yeah,
evolve.
that is. And I love that. So you have a free offer that you would like to give. It's called From Conflict to Connection. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that process that I just walked you through when I said pause and I had all those questions of self-reflection, this guide actually helps you have something to look to remember so that you can structure your way of pausing. So instead of stewing in your feelings, like, oh, that jerk, I can't believe he just did that, and like essentially adding fuel to the fire, this will help you rein it in, feel your emotions, validate yourself, and also help you have some structure to go into the conversation so that the conversation can be more productive instead of just, oh, I'm just going to talk and kind of hope for the best. But now it's like, oh, now I know what I can share, and it will actually provide insight to your partner, which
Right.
will lead to less defensiveness on their part and
Mhm.
more openness, which will then help with more collaboration and connection.
Yep. And again, it's a trial and error process, right?
It is.
Every day can be different based on the situation, the
The
different
mood, the
emotions.
stress.
Yep. So, yeah, I love that. And I will put the link to get it in the show notes. If someone has a question or they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I've been loving Threads a lot lately. I'm under Michelle Purta coaching for both, but also check out my podcast. If you are already here, that means you love podcasts. So hop on over there. You will find Amy on there. She recently was interviewed for my show, as well as other amazing resources from other coaches, as well as learning more about how to break your reactive pattern and go into more partnership and connection for my solo episodes. So I'd be happy to have you over there.
Amazing. And again, I will put all the links down below so people can find them. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
It was fun. And to my listeners, take care of your marriage this week by taking a pause in the charged conversation. Thanks for being here, and you will hear from me again on This Incredible Mom Life.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. You can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.